now whenever I get the chance to talk to people, especially like indie people or smaller people, to try to feature them is always good.
And I really appreciate that, Freddie. Thanks for
Hmm.
having us.
Yeah.
It's great to be able to talk about games in general,
Hmm.
and it's always great to have someone that's interested in hearing our
Yeah.
thoughts and our experience in it.
Hmm. No, and I learned, I guess, talking to people from different countries too, like how they grew up differently from since I'm in the US,
Hmm.
like how it was different for them growing up, but it might be easier to get games since
Yeah,
everything's like digital or available digital for most people.
it's becoming more accessible for sure.
Hmm. No, I got to play some of the demo for Evertried yesterday,
Awesome.
and it was really cool and like different, something I haven't seen before.
Oh, that's great
But
to hear.
I don't know if you want to kind of explain what it is in your own way or how you
Sure.
pitch it to people.
Sure. Every time that we try to pitch about what's Evertried is all about, we try to combine games that people might know already.
Hmm.
So we like to say it's kind of a mix between Crypt of the Necrodancer and Into the Breach, in a sense that there's a certain pacing to the game. It's a little more faster and free flowing than most like traditional turn-based RPGs and turn-based games.
Hmm.
However, positioning is very important in Evertried. So it's basically what you would get if you made a puzzle based in mystery dungeon type of games where when you move, everything else moves.
Yeah.
So really positioning yourself in a way that you can deal damage before taking damage and using traps from the floors to really try to create a situation where you can deal with multiple enemies at one time is the key to success in Evertried. So it's the game that we try to put positioning above everything else in terms of combat and mechanics.
Hmm. No, I really enjoyed playing it, and I haven't Into the Breach is a game that I feel like I thought it would be something like that, even though I haven't played it, but that was a game I always wanted to try.
Hmm.
But Crypt of the Necro Dancer and the Zelda one, also Cadence of Hyrule, are two games that like I played a lot, and it reminds me of
Oh,
that
nice.
too. Hmm.
Right.
But
So
it's
you had
actually,
an easier time probably with Evertried because you already have some experience with this type
yeah,
of games,
I
right?
guess at first I kept dying, but I started getting a little better. But is it actually like turn based, or if you don't move, will other people move, or they don't move until you move? Because
No,
that's
they
some.
don't move until you move. They still. So the
Hmm.
player really dictates the pace of the game. And what we
Hmm.
try to do in terms of incentivizing players to try to play a little faster or try some more aggressive approaches is that we have something called the focus system in Evertried. So when you defeat an enemy or you hit something, you gain a little bit of focus experience. And when
Hmm.
you get enough of the focus experience, your focus level goes up. And the higher your focus level is, the more bounty you get from defeating enemies. So there's a little currency in the game called shards where you use to purchase items in the store. So we have mostly active and passive skills that you can acquire called skills and modifiers.
Hmm.
And if you have a higher focus level when you defeat an enemy, you get more shards from defeating it. So there's an incentive in the terms that you're getting more rewards for dealing with enemies if your focus level is higher, but also modifiers, which are passive skills, they triggered based on your focus level. So we try to balance it out in a way that we have more defensive modifiers that do not need a higher focus level to trigger to help, especially players that are starting to play Evertried and learning. So like things that can shield you or can retaliate enemies, because we assume newer players are taking more damage, but
Hmm.
more aggressive modifiers like lifesteal or something that really improves damage after making a dash, something that we expect more experienced players to have to rely on. Then you have to have a higher focus level to trigger those effects. So for example, if your focus level goes below 5, then your lifesteal passive just turns off. So really have to be mindful of trying to play faster and try to do something at all times. But you don't need to pay attention to that. You can really play Evertried as low as you want. Take your time because is going to stay still as long as you don't move.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I was trying to go too fast at first because I'm used to
Mm-hmm.
just like trying to jump in and like run out there and do stuff. But yeah, I wanted to try it again today and play slower, but I'll probably do that this week.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Hmm.
awesome. There's a little bit of a learning curve in terms of the enemy
Hmm.
patterns and realizing like how do I bait this type of enemy? How do I bait that type of enemy? So I really would advise like starting playing slowly and try to figure out the enemies and realize your own style of strategy because of course there's skills and different ways that you can approach different enemies. And once you get the hang of things, then you naturally start playing faster and faster.
Yeah.
We had one player that tried to was testing Evertried, like I believe was mid 2020, and the first time he just launched the game and tried to really run in the game, and he
Hmm.
kept dying like out of nowhere because he was spending so many turns in a single second that
Yeah.
he couldn't even realize how much damage he was taking before he died. So it's good to really take notice of everything that's happening before like trying to play faster, I would say.
Hmm. No, yeah, I did that too, I think. And then I guess when I first saw because I got an email about the game and then I saw the artwork and it reminded me of Hollow Knight kind of like just
Right, right.
like the cinematic art or
Mm.
but then when I actually saw like the trailer, I was like, oh, this looks much different and cool because of the whole way the game plays.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We had some people comparing like the Evertried to Hollow Knight, but I feel like the same way as you did. Maybe if you look at the artwork or something like
Yeah, I
that,
think it's
you
the
can see
artwork a little.
like similar to the maybe because of the head of our character is also like a skull thingy,
Hmm.
and maybe the cloth. But if you look into the game, I feel it's much more closer to like Final Fantasy Tactics than it is to Hollow Knight
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. Once I actually saw like gameplay, I think it was just the cover art. I was like, oh, this looks like something straight out of Hollow Knight, which was a game that I loved a lot. And then when I saw the video, I was like, oh, this is totally different, and I was ready to play it. It was really cool.
I do like it either way.
Yeah.
And I know I can see also there's like I see Evertried has more of a gloomy kind of theme behind it because talking about death and souls
Hmm.
and everything. And Hollow Knight's fairly gloomy itself. And
Yeah.
so there's also some fair comparisons there. But hopefully people will see Evertried more closer maybe to a turn-based RPG than a
Hmm.
Metroidvania in
You
the
know, after
sense.
playing it, I feel more like the Crypt of the Necro Dancer too, because you
Hmm.
you also learn the moves of the different characters, like don't attack this guy head on because he's gonna jump back and forth or things like
Right.
that, or you know learn their movements. Um, and then as you play and make it through more floors, you can get like power ups that you get to keep throughout the game also, or you kind of get stronger.
Right, right. Yeah. When you in the demo and even in the full game, as soon as you get to the fifth floor, then you enter a shop, and at the shop you can acquire skills and modifiers, which are
Hmm.
active and passive effects, respectively. And being a roguelite, the thing is, if you die, you start over from the first floor of the tower, and you lose everything that you acquired.
Hmm.
However, skills have an interesting mechanic called skill. It's called mastery over skills. So the more you use a skill, the more mastery points you acquire with it. And after reaching a certain level of mastery points, the skill will evolve its form, becoming more powerful, receiving added effects. And this evolution stays like this forever. So the next
Okay.
time that you find that skill in a shop, the skill will already be evolved. And skills can evolve up to 3 times. And if you get a skill to the final form, which we call the mastered skill, then you can start to play your next run with it already equipped. So you can start the game with a skill since the first floor, which can be really helpful if you already have a build in mind that you want to try. And
Hmm.
so, although you lose most of the things that you had when you die, there's definitely an incentive to try to play multiple times and use different skills and try to level them up.
Yeah. So when you get it again, it'll be leveled up from what
Yeah,
you've done with it before. That's very cool.
exactly.
And then where did the story for the game come, or is it
Right.
you and your partner wrote it together, or?
Um, yeah, Lunic Games did like 100% of the story. I was the guy behind the story, try to write things down. But of
Hmm.
course, we always work together and get their feedback. But basically, the story of Evertried is that in Evertried's world, when someone dies, it goes either to kind of hell or heaven, right? Like the life beyond death things.
Hmm.
However, there are some souls that let's say the judges of the universe are not sure if they should go to hell or heaven, so they created a tower to serve like a purgatory and a way for souls to really prove their worth, so they can so the judges can choose if they go to heaven or to hell. And based on what you did when you were alive, you have a different trial. So if you were let's say a gardener, you have to plant something in the tower. And if you were like a poet, you have to create an epic story in the tower. And when you wake up in the tower, you don't have any memory of your past life, which is unusual for that universe. However, when you pick up the weapon, you feel like your body is moving very. like it knows what to do. So you realize, oh, I was a warrior when I was alive. But it's very unusual for a warrior to be in the tower, because if you were a warrior and you died in battle, then for sure you go to heaven, because that's exactly what a warrior would do.
Mhm.
And but if you died with and you're in the tower, so how did you die? This is the first question that you should have when playing Evertried. And you have no memory. So why do you have no memory of how you died, even though all other souls in the tower do? And so the best way to find out what happened to your soul and why you're in the tower is to reach the top and confront the judges of the tower and see what happened, what the hell are you there, and try to fight for your afterlife.
Okay. And then thinking of, um, I was just thinking of something, like it sparked something that you said. um, oh, so did you come up with the story first, or sort of the game? Like, I want to make a game that you do this, and then you built the story around that, or kind of both?
And at Lunic Games, we always figure out the mechanics first,
Mhm.
because if the game isn't fun, you could have like the best story ever, it's going to just flop. So
Yeah.
the story and even the graphics come later. But for Evertried specifically, there's a very interesting story of how it came together. Because at Lunic Games, we were working in another game called Lumi and the Dark Nebula, which was a 2D cartoony platformer.
Mhm.
And we were at an indie conference in Brazil called BIG. And during that event, we found a programmer that had a prototype of a cowboy that every time he moves, all the slimes move, and he wanted to kill slimes and proceed to the next floor. And it
Mhm.
was really, really bare bones, but the let's say the core of the mechanic was there in terms of like a board piece where you have a character and everything moves and you go to the next one. So kind of like a strategy game and a puzzle game. And he was looking for a creative team to help him make the actual game and try to make it that
Mhm.
prototype into something that people can play and have fun. And that's what sparked us. We saw that we thought it could have like great potential if we did something with that, and we'd end up joining a co-development partnership to make Evertried come to fruition. And the first step for us to do that, we pitched um, a visual aesthetic for the game to Danilo. And to do that, we had to realize what kind of universe would that be, what kind of colors and what kind of characters would that have. And we started figuring out what kind of universe we could have to justify that mechanic of going up and up in different floors. So we were really inspired by Dante's Inferno because it has like the levels of hell,
Mhm.
and we want to do something like that, as well as playing around with the stages of grief. So actually every 10 floors of the tower is a different area and has different enemies and different visuals, and they are based on different stages of grief. So you start off in denial because you just die and you try to figure out what you do with your soul. Then you move to anger, then you move to bargain, and you continue the tower until you reach acceptance, right?
Mhm.
And to wrap this all everything up, we were really inspired by Nordic mythology. So, for instance, the main character has like a deer-like skull, and the deer is an animal that's linked with the occult and the mysticism and the lost souls. And a lot of the weapons and the styles, we really went after Nordic culture and Nordic mythology. And even the name of the enemies were inspired by Sweden words. So hopefully that would all tie together in something that
Mhm.
looks really unique.
Mhm. No, it's really cool. So then, like, you went to the guy that had like kind of a prototype for the game and dressed it up first, and then
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that.
Basically, there was a guy that had like the skeleton of something,
Mhm.
and we knew that if we did like the game design, the art, the music, and the
Mhm.
story, then we could really make it into a cool game. And that's what we're trying to do. Hopefully people
Yeah.
will think it's
Well,
cool too.
it's very cool, and it's coming to like all platforms when it comes
Yes,
out.
yes. Looking for a fall 2021 launch. So in a couple of months,
Mhm.
we should have it launched for all platforms at the same time.
Okay. And or you guys did a Kickstarter and you for the
Yes,
game? That's how you got it,
yes.
I guess,
We
to
actually
so you
did a
could work on
Kickstarter.
it.
Sorry,
And
go
did
ahead.
you no, did you add a lot of stuff like because it's I think I saw that it was 400% of the goals around.
Yeah,
So
it
did
was
you
awesome.
have to add a lot of stuff into the Kickstarter or like stuff into the games for stretch goals, or did you give stuff to fans or different things?
Yeah, Kickstarter was a great experience. What we did was we had a lot of things that we wanted to do with the game, but we had to be realistic. If we
Hmm.
didn't have enough time and resources, then we couldn't do it. So we boiled the game down to like the most core experience that we could deliver that would make sense for us to deliver in a game. And we made it so that our funding goal would make that possible. And
Okay.
everything else that we wanted to do, like we cut off, but put as a stretch goal. So there were skills that we cut off, modifiers that we cut off, different areas and bosses that we cut off, and we put everything like a stretch goal. So if we have the resource to do it, we for sure do it.
Hmm.
And fortunately, people really came to our cause, really helped us out and meet a lot of our stretch goals. And our final stretch goal was for the console porting, which was really important to us, especially because a lot of people were asking for a Switch version
Yeah.
and something that can play on the go. And we couldn't do that without resources. But on the last day, on the last like 2 hours of our campaign, we were about like $2,000 off.
Hmm.
And out of nowhere, in the last minutes, we met that $20,000 goal, and we
Wow.
actually secured the console porting. So it's like a dream come true for us in terms of the narrative of our Kickstarter.
Hmm.
And it was like crucial for us because not only we got some exposure due to marketing, people talking about the Kickstarter, we also had a demo during our Kickstarter that helped us get their feedback from players that were downloading the demo and just telling us about things that they didn't like, things they felt that could be better. And we used that to try to make the game as polished as we could deliver. But it also helped us make Evertried much closer of the full game that we wanted to make.
Hmm. No, I think it's gonna be really cool. I would probably want to play it on the Switch too, because you could play a handheld and on the TV. But it seems like
No,
the
yeah,
perfect
that makes
Switch
sense.
game.
I hope so.
And then you're in Santos, Brazil.
Yes, yes. So,
Is it?
the biggest city in Brazil is called São Paulo,
Hmm.
which is like the fifth largest city in the world.
Yeah.
And Santos is by the coast and it's about like 40 minutes from São Paulo. So we could like do everything in São Paulo. I lived in São Paulo for 7 years, but I was born in Santos. It's much smaller city, much
Hmm.
more chill kind of vibe, and I really, really much prefer to be in a more not as rush kind of metropolis kind of vibe. So it's much more suited for me. Like every day we try to go for a walk. We are not doing that because of the COVID and everything
Yeah.
else, but we try to go for a walk on the beach and just try to figure out the issues that we were having with the game. And so it's great to be able to do this from our home city too.
Hmm. And then what was it like? So you were born in Santos and grew up there.
Yes,
So
yes, I was born in Santos.
what was it
It's
like growing up with like the gaming scene and like your early memories with games and all that?
right. So I was fortunate enough that I had two older cousins that
Hmm.
lived in São Paulo actually, and I can't remember being alive without any kind of connection with video games because, like, I was born in '92, so I was born in the year, if I believe, of Super Mario World and such great games.
Hmm.
That once I could really remember things. I remember my cousins like letting me watch them play Super Mario World, that letting me watch them play Street Fighter 2, World Warrior,
Hmm.
and as soon as I could pick up a controller, this was the kind of games that I started playing. And it games have always been a part of my life in terms of my childhood. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of friends and live in a city that we could like play soccer in the beach. So there was a lot of space to do like sorry, I forgot the name in English, to do outdoors
Yeah,
sports
outdoor
and activities.
activities. Hmm.
But there are this kind of days that you want you to keep to yourself and stay in your room or do something on your own or just invite one friend over. And this was where games were important to me.
Hmm.
I guess my only breakaway from games was when during the PS2 era, a lot of my friends really liked like FIFA and sports simulation kind of games, but I
Hmm.
was much more inclined to fantasy games and RPGs. So I played more and more like single player games instead of playing like Mario Party with everyone because people really much prefer playing like Madden and FIFA.
Yeah.
But 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 it was always like a great. I have one friend which actually is my business partner at Lunic Games. We founded it together,
Hmm.
and he was the guy when everyone was playing FIFA. I went to his house and we played Sonic Adventure 2 and I had a
Yeah.
blast, like raising chaos babies and this kind of things. So it was always a part of my life, and I was fortunate enough to be in a family that could afford like having a video game and having being able to purchase different games when it came out. So it's like I couldn't think about my childhood without thinking of video games.
Yeah. No, I grew up the same because I was in a small town here in Miami. So
Hmm.
we had even down my street there was like four of us together that were all the same age and we were good friends and we'd wake up on weekends, go like play and roller hockey, basketball, like like the sports outside, and then we'd go
Right.
inside when it gets too hot and play video games at someone's house.
Right.
So, and
But
your
it's
business
awesome.
partner has been your friend since you were a kid?
I would say since
Or,
I was a baby actually,
wow.
because like we studied in the same school
Hmm.
since like since we're in diapers, and we have been best friends since then. But the for me the best thing about being business partner with Eduardo is that I feel he's a critic of my work and I am of his. So we never let anything pass. Like we really go rough into each other's
Yeah.
work and say, "Oh, I don't like this. You should think about this." And we have a really clear communication between the two of us, even to the point where other people of the team sometimes thinks that we are arguing in a very bad sense, like that we are in a fight. We're
Hmm.
just like really invested in making our arguments heard, and we know that we both know how to listen to the other, and we put the opinion of each other's in a high standard.
Hmm.
So it's been great to be able to be in a company that I feel I'm not alone, because I have a business partner that I 100% trust. I know he knows me, and I know he wouldn't let me do something that's out of my character, or out of something that I feel would be best for the company too.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. And how big is the company overall, or how many people are there with you guys?
Right. It's really small right now. We have 4 people working at Lunic
Hmm.
Games. And at times when we pick up like an outsourcing service or a work for hire service, we tend to hire like temporarily uh, a freelance artist or freelance programmer to do part of the work. Because of course, being a small studio, we were founded in 2019.
Hmm.
We have to be really responsible with the way that we grow. So we hopefully will have more resources with Evertried launching and having some income from the sales of the game. But still, we really want to take it slow, grow like as little as possible. Only grow if we actually need to grow to make the games happen. So we can afford to make mistakes. We can afford to have something go wrong, because especially in Brazil, because we don't have like a very old game development scene in Brazil, although we
Hmm.
have like a couple of companies that have plus 10 years plus of development. But in terms of maturity of the market, and how business centric the some companies are, is still like a growing experience that we have in Brazil. More and more companies are trying to think in a more commercial sense and try to plan out their games better. And we want to be part of that experience of growing in a very responsible way, in a very sustainable way. So 10 years from now, we can still have Lunic Games in the market, making the games that we want to make.
Yeah. And then how has it been with the pandemic? Because that I guess it started about a year, maybe less, after you guys started the
Yeah,
company.
fortunately enough, with us being very small and very
Yeah.
agile, it didn't affect us as much as other studios, because we already have like few guys working at Linux, so we can just like everybody working from home, everybody using the same tools, and everybody
Hmm.
trying to do the same job. So it's been rough in a sense that it of course it affects our like our mental health and our physical health, not being able to go
Yeah.
outside and meet people, especially not meet people like personally and try to brainstorm ideas. But I feel like we did our best in terms
Hmm.
of adapting to the situation, and to the point where now I find it hard to justify paying a rent again and
Yeah.
having everyone in the studio. And I really, because I really enjoy having everybody in the same space and everybody like pitching ideas. But at the same time, like is doing such a great work from
Hmm.
their homes and having such a great time being able to spend time with their families and their pets. And I'm not paying rent for the studio anymore. So it's like things are going smoothly right now. Let's see
Yeah.
how everything rolls out from here.
Well, I feel like a lot of people are feeling that way. And even like I've been able to go to, and you too probably, you went to PAX or
Right.
this year. I got to go to E3 and PAX since everything was digital and
Mm-hmm.
like talk to people and meet people. And then the people I met were like smaller developers that wouldn't have gone probably. They were able
That's
to
great.
share their game with more people, which is cool.
Right. No, yeah, we're 100% right. In fact, we actually got to be part of Tokyo Game Show last
Oh,
year, and of course, we wouldn't be able to if
yeah.
it wasn't digital. So a lot of opportunities came up due to the pandemic too. And of course, it's a terrible thing, but
Yeah.
You cannot avoid the terrible things. You cannot try to make like the best of the situation, and I feel like we're trying to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it's changed the way people are doing stuff, and they'll probably stay that way somewhat
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
while.
I feel so. There are some companies that are more like conservative minded,
Mm-hmm.
are more, they only know how to do business in a single way.
Yeah.
But hopefully this will break the mold and make people think more about the alternatives, and that we don't have to all work the same way. Like we can work the best way possible for your situation, which is different depending on who you talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. I have friends that were like, I can't work from home anymore because I'm just going crazy. And then some people are like, I love this and I never want to go back.
Sure, for sure.
And then I think I read that you started going to school to be a doctor at some point.
Yes, that's yeah. When I was almost graduating high school, I
Hmm.
still had no idea what I should do in terms of college and this kind of things. And so I tried to figure out what kind of subjects that I like most in school. Maybe that could be a nice direction. And I really love chemistry. I really love biology. So
Hmm.
naturally, I thought, yeah, like, I'm gonna be a biochemistry chemistry. I apologize for my English.
That's
So,
okay.
and I was looking to work with biomedicine, and but my father, which is a doctor, was talking to me, and he said, it's very hard to work in a lab and work with technology because there aren't as many jobs openings in that area. So if you try to be a doctor, if everything goes wrong, you can have a job in a hospital. There's always like jobs for doctors in hospitals, and you can do that until there's like a way for you to break into a lab and try to work in a more technological sense. And that strategy like sound perfect for me. Like, yeah, sure, let's try to go to medical school. So I tried the first year after high school. In Brazil, there's like a test that you do so you can enter a college,
Hmm.
like, and if you and of course for medical school, the the grade that you have to have on those tests are really high because there are a lot of people try to get in. So it's like a cutoff grade. And on the first year, I couldn't get in the colleges that I wanted. So I studied for 1 year, and then the next year, I actually got to enter a college that I wanted to attend to. But as soon as I was studying with my new friends in the college at college and sitting through classes, I realized I was the only one that wasn't having a great time.
Hmm.
Everybody was happy and laughing, and they loved the teachers and they loved the subjects, and I felt just so miserable.
Yeah.
And I could understand why, because I love the people there, I love the teachers, I love the campus, and I was just feeling miserable. So I called Eduardo, which is my business partner, who was studying to be an engineer at the time,
Oh.
and was like, man, I'm just not happy here. There's something wrong with me. I think that's not the path that I should take. And he was feeling the same way. So we talked like through some weeks. We every day after school, I phoned him, and we understood that we wanted to make games. That's
Mm.
what we really wanted to do. So now we had to figure out what we should do in order to make games.
Yeah.
And we had a friend that was working in the film industry in Los Angeles, and we asked her like, maybe you know someone that can help us out. And she told us, don't know for sure what you want to do in games, maybe you should attend like design school, because if you understand like digital design, you know user interface, like you know navigation, these are fairly useful knowledge for you to have if you want to make games, right? So that's just what we did. Like I dropped from medical school, he dropped from engineering school, and we started attending design school in different cities. And after that, during my time at design, I actually got an internship in the biggest publisher in Latin America, which was working with online games called Level Up.
Mm-hmm.
And there I started learning more about like testing games and reports, and especially in a more business oriented way about the market and the Latin American market. And it was through Level Up that I was actually promoted to business developer. So, yeah, so to biz dev. And I
Mm-hmm.
attended GDC, I attended Gamescom, Game Connection, and these were the experience that really consolidated what I think right now about the market in terms of how business focused you have to be in order to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And after 5 years at Level Up, I left the company to found Lunic Games, and now we're here trying to make
Wow.
Evertried into a successful game.
And did you at one point have the goal of being part of a big company, like making AAA games or anything, or you always wanted to kind of make your own thing or be a part of a smaller team and have more like input
Hmm.
and all that?
I really have a passion for trying to tell stories,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand I'm not great at it yet. So if maybe when I left Level Up, if I got an opportunity to work in a big company that could help me like improve my craft and try to be better in terms of a professional in a general way, maybe I would take that. And right now it's hard to talk about maybe try to join a bigger company, because I know of how valuable that experience would be. But I'm just having a great time doing our own
Yeah.
thing and trying to do our own games. So I feel like this is the path for me. I really want to make Learning into a really consolidated studio. And of course, if something goes sour, something go bad, of course I won't leave this industry for nothing in the world. I will try to make it happen, maybe get more experience in other companies. But I'm I'm focusing to making I focus in making Lunic Games like
Mm.
a household studio for the Brazilian scene.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And I think it's cool to that you and your friend came together and like you're kind of figuring it all out together, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Like you can get the experience in a big place, but also there's things you don't see because you'll probably just be working on like one part of the games, but you get to see everything now
right, right.
with
Yeah,
your
yeah.
own.
And I get this feeling at even when I was working at Level Up, because I started as an intern,
Hmm.
and everything seemed like awesome. Like every day was a good day. And once you get promoted and you know more stuffs and you know more about the challenges of the company and what they're facing, everything starts to look less and less like a honeymoon and more like we have to make sacrifices and have to make things happen. And the cool thing is that right now, like you said, being like the head of the company, I know 100% of the issues and the challenges and the problems that we have to solve, which can be difficult at times. But I feel like the more mistakes that we make right now, the more successful we'll be in the future, because
Hmm.
right now we're small, we don't have as many resources, we have one game in the pipeline. So if everything goes wrong right now, I can be sure that I won't make these same mistakes once we have like more people and more resources and more games, and try to really not repeat the same mistakes. So it's been great in the sense of learning and trying to be more mindful of the decisions that we make, and hopefully we'll learn enough to minimize the big mistakes that we shouldn't make.
Hmm. And do you have other ideas for games for the future? Or are you like writing stuff down and saving it for later, kind of? Because I bet you guys are focused just on this game right now.
Right. Yeah. So right now we are committed into making Evertried launch go well and everything else. But we already have another game in pre-production at Lunic Games,
Oh
already
wow.
talking about testing mechanics and really validating mechanics. The first step for us in when we work with any game is really try to prototype the main mechanic and validate it. See if it makes sense for the target audience that we have.
Hmm.
Then we go through like a marketing analysis process to see if there's a place for that game, because sometimes you try to break into a very saturated genre and just it's not worth the effort for a smaller studio, because then
Yeah.
our marketing budget would have to be like 10 times our development budget.
Hmm. To show up.
So try to figure out what kind of niche we're aiming at, what kind of player profile that we have, and what kind of experience that player would want from us in terms of making a game. And so we're in process of validation. Hopefully everything's going to go well. And yeah, we can never be stopped. Like when one game is close to being mostly finished, then we should already have the next one in the pipeline.
Hmm. No, that's a good plan.
If we can do it,
Yeah.
let's do it.
And then I know there's a bunch of other Brazilian developers and smaller studios too. Are you guys, a lot of you, like in contact with each other or friends,
Yes,
trying to like
actually.
give each other advice and all that?
Right, right. Especially, I try to rely more on more experienced developers, because I still see myself as a newcomer in the scene.
Hmm.
But I'm fortunate enough to be in a scene where more experienced guys are really open to talk about mistakes and experience and give you advice. And I never had a situation where I send an email or send a message to someone asking about something, and they never
Nice.
told me like, oh no, I can't talk about that. They were
Hmm.
really open, and I feel like there are of course different circles of developers, because there are guys that know them that they know themselves like for 10 years, so they're much closer than me and other developers. But I have some closer relationship with other Brazilian developers, and one developer that I really like, it's Mad Mimic, because we did our Kickstarters in this like one day off of each other. So we were rooting for each other's and trying to help out with each other's stretch goals to see if we can both make it. And I really enjoy that work. So it's great to be in a scene where you can root to other developer success, because we're never competing in the sense that if someone gets is successful, I cannot be successful. We're always
Yeah.
benefiting from everybody getting a good chance, everybody being successful. So it's that's the good part of being in a growing market. You can see a lot of cool stuff coming up, and try to really root and help them out that
Hmm.
as much as you can.
And what are your favorite games, I guess, or your favorite types of games, and what are you currently playing right now? Or is it just
Right
working on
now,
your game and not playing it, not having time for anything?
no, with Evertried is a funny experience, because I never like launch it anymore to play the game, because I like to keep that I'm the world the world's best player of Evertried.
Hmm.
But when I launch it, I actually have fun still, because it's procedural, and why not? But and in terms of what I'm playing, like personally right now, I'm really having a great time with Guilty Gear Strive. I'm a fighting game
Oh yeah.
player. I love fighting game. Arc System is just a banger of a company. Like everything they they launch is just like a banger of a game. And before that was playing Street Fighter 5, because
Hmm.
again, I'm a fighting game player. And but besides fighting game, I love playing Magic, and right now like Magic the Gathering, the card game. So I do play a lot of Magic Arena, but before that I like to play in the kitchen with
You
my
do.
friends. Looking forward to going back to do that.
Hmm.
And I really enjoy strategy games like Fire Emblem. I really enjoy Pokemon. I really enjoy Final Fantasy Tactics. I when you work with games, especially when you work with games in a genre that you like, sometimes I feel a little exhausted, that
Yeah.
I don't want you to go into a new game and try to figure out the new mechanics. So I go back to comfort games,
Hmm.
games I already beat like 100 times. So I was playing Fire Emblem Sacred Stones again, like for I don't know how many times I beat that game. So it just feels good to play like turn-based tactics games, and fighting games is just always in my radar.
Yeah. No, I guess I've asked people like if they like when they get home to play games that are like the game they're working on or games that are totally different to kind of get away from that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting, but something that's interesting for me, especially for Evertried, is sometimes by the end of the day, I don't have any energy left because we work in Brazil, so we have our team working on, and we
Hmm.
just announced that we got published by Dangan Entertainment, which is a Japanese publisher, and we are 12 hours apart. So
Oh,
when my team is going to bed, their team is
they're
waking up, and I
starting.
have to be the bridge. So it's like a really long day for me. And when the day ends for me, I don't have any energy to play actually. But I
Hmm.
really enjoy watching people play Evertried because I kind of play along them by watching, like thinking about what move I would make, what move they're making, and I get
Hmm.
frustrated when they make a move I wouldn't make. And it's such a great experience to watch people learn as they play and develop strategies and figure out enemy patterns. So I'm having a great time right now, especially because we are in DreamHack Beyond, so more people are discovering our demo and figuring out how to play the game,
Hmm.
and hopefully more people will publish their YouTube videos and stream the game, so I can just before going to bed I can just watch someone try to figure out the demo.
Yeah. When I read Ask Iwata, the book from the
Right.
Nintendo guy back like a month ago, but he
Mm-hmm.
was talking, there was a part where he said like just watching someone play the game, you learn a lot more than like playing it yourself when
For
people are
sure.
working on a game because you see what they're doing wrong or what they don't see.
Yeah.
Like things that you just know because you worked on the game and you might just do it. They might not see, and you're like, oh, I have to put something so that they notice this.
Yeah, sometimes it's painful because when you did your best to inform the player about a certain decision, a certain enemy, and they just don't realize, you know, it's not their fault, it's your fault because you didn't do your job correctly, you didn't give enough information. And when you do like a roguelite, because Evertide is a strategy game but it's also a roguelite, there's a fine line between giving enough information so players know how to operate the game, but letting enough things for the player to find out by themselves. So
Mhm.
there's some, especially for Evertried specifically, we don't talk about enemies in the tutorial. You really have to figure it out by yourself,
Yeah.
by observing and try to figure out by experimentation. And so when players start playing Evertried, it's like you feel like you're just an awful person because they're taking damage, they don't know where to go. But like 2 minutes and 3 minutes after they start cracking different strategies, you can see like, oh no, they're figuring out. So okay, nothing, all hope is not lost. They can learn the game by themselves. So it's a little nerve wracking the first minutes of watching people play the game.
I guess my last question is like, what do you do outside of games for fun? I know now it's been hard to go outside and do stuff outside, but
Yeah, yeah. So I really love sports.
Mhm.
When until I was like since I was 8 until I was in high school, I'm actually a black belt in karate.
Oh.
So I attended the competitions. I was an athlete. Now I'm just lazy. So I really love outdoor sports. I really love to play soccer with my
Mhm.
friends. So it's been rough to do this kind of things due to the pandemic. And I really like to write stories too, but I find myself without the energy, which is
Yeah.
actually a great excuse not to do something. Because of course we should always try to do something. And I love to draw, although I'm worthless at it.
Oh, I'm the same. I've always loved drawing and but I've been a better writer, so I just stuck with writing, but I still try to learn to be better at drawing all the time.
Yeah, it's easier to show people like what you wrote and ask them for feedback because you can fix. But if you're as bad as I am with art and you show them and just like, yeah, we can, you can't really fix it, you have to try again. It's like, never mind that. But
And
yeah,
does
that's
your partner does most of the art for the game and all that?
yes, yes. Among the four guys that we have at Lunic right now, two of them are artists, which is
Hmm.
Eduardo, my business partner, and we have another artist called Vitor,
Hmm.
and they both tackle art animation. The only artsy thing that I do in Evertried were the special effects because we're using Unity for Evertried, and there's
Hmm.
something called the particle system. So by manipulating particles, color, and a lot of different behaviors that they have as well with by scripting some behaviors that you can ask them to do, then you can
Yeah.
have different effects. So I try to do a little trickery
Hmm.
for the skills and different effects in Evertried. But aside from that, everything's done by Eduardo and Vitor, and I really love their work.
Hmm.
Every time that someone watches Evertried or see the artwork and they give like they compliment the artwork, I feel so proud of them because I also feel that they are great. But if you ask them their opinion on their own art, they're going to tell that it's not that good. There's a lot of mistakes. That they're
Yeah.
as happy with this because they are really critical about their own work. But I
Hmm.
just love the pixel art aesthetic that they come up with.
Yeah. No, I think it's better to be on your side and be surprised by the art whenever you see like new stuff instead of them who they because when you do it yourself, you see like, oh, I did this wrong, or you see all that instead.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
No, well, thank you so much for your time. It was really nice meeting you.
No, I appreciate it. But it
Hmm.
was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy talking about games in general
Yeah.
and meeting people that like games too. So it's been
No,
great.
it's a lot of fun. And I'm excited to play the game a bit more because I got, I think, like 10 or 15 minutes yesterday just to play it.
How far did you get?
I think I only got to 3 or 4.
Okay, so almost at the shop. Okay,
But at first I was just, yeah, 1 or 2. I kept getting the first one and
it's
then sometimes the second one.
it's rough when you start playing the game. Sure.
Mhm.
And if you end up beating the demo, please send us like a picture of your time because when you finish the demo, there's your clear time, and we have a leaderboard in our Discord. So
Mhm.
if you want to join our leaderboard and
Okay.
have a crack on our speedrunners, then share with us your time. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Our speedrunners they already get into it through the demo, like from the beginning.
We like to kid because I don't know about speedrunners from outside, like Awesome Games and Quake, none of that. But inside our Discord, people are trying
People
to
are
beat
just
my
trying to
time,
beat it
and they're
really
almost there,
fast.
which I'm scared because my time is really competitive, and like 2 seconds away, I'm sweating already. Like, oh my god, they're doing it, and it's just fun to see people figure the game out in different ways, and they really can come up with strategies that I never thought about. For instance, like there's a skill we never tried called roulette where it chooses at random any unit in the floor and kills it. And that unit can be you, so it's really risky. And they figure out that if they use roulette in the boss fight, they could like save the most amount of time with a single use of roulette. So they're actually
Mhm.
spending the whole time uh, by climbing and reaching the boss and trying to instant kill it just to shave off time. So it's like a coin flip by at the end, and they're really crazy like that. And I just love to see they breaking my game.
Yeah. All right. No, we'll have an awesome day. And
You
thanks so
too.
much for your time.
You too, for you. Thanks a lot.